I'm Dr. Deb Butler, and you are listening to Thinner Peace in Menopause and Beyond. This is episode number 283. Welcome to Thinner Peace in Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. If you're a woman and you're smart and you're successful and you've been struggling with weight your whole life, and now menopause is making it harder than ever, and you are ready to make this the last time you ever have to go on a diet again, then this podcast is for you. Stay tuned. Well, hello, all my dear friends. How are you today? And you all are my dear friends. And today I have a very special podcast because it's an interview that I did with one of my clients in the last group that I did. And I think it's very apropos to run this interview now as I'm getting ready to open up another group. So I thought it'd be really interesting for you to hear about one of my clients' experiences that just finished a group with me. Now I want to tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Rosemary, but she doesn't like to be called Rose because her last name, well, I'm not going to give away everything. I don't know if she wants me to say her last name, but she's Rosemary and we call her Marie. And one of the things that I just want to say about her before you hear this interview is that we did a mini session before she decided to join the group. And she was really doubtful about herself because she had done so many things before and she didn't have a lot of confidence or trust in herself. And so when we did the mini session, she still really didn't have that confidence. And I just said to her, well, what are you going to do instead? And she says she's probably going to keep doing the same thing she's always been doing and getting the same results she's always been getting. And I just mentioned to her that maybe this is the time to try something new and to have enough confidence in herself that she'll do what I tell her to do, which is what I tell all of you when you're listening to my podcast. Just do what I tell you to do. And if you're one of my clients, I want you to do what I tell you to do because I really do know the tools that will help you get to a place of confidence, trust with yourself around food, and really be able to manage your own mind. So anyway, long story short, she decided to go all in on herself. And let me tell you something about this woman. She went all in on herself. She was a force of nature in the group. She was determined, and boy, did she get great results, which is why she's on this podcast. So sit back, take a walk. I know a lot of you like to walk with me, or if you're driving, whatever it is you're doing, sit back and listen to Marie talk about her group experience. And I'll get on at the very end and say a few things. Hi, Marie. Welcome to my podcast.
Hi, Dr. Deb. It's great to see you, and it's great to be here.
Yeah, and you got the biggest smile on your face. And so I don't remember your smile being as big as it is now.
Well, one of the reasons I think why I'm smiling so big is that when I look at my face on this screen, it's actually thinner than the first time I saw you.
And that makes you smile?
It certainly does. Yeah. When I look back on our recorded group sessions when I was being coached by you, there's a difference. And I can see that, and absolutely makes me very happy that your program's working well for me.
Wonderful. So that's what we'll do. We'll talk about how it's working for you, what you want to share with people, because you did a group experience with me as opposed to individual coaching. So I'd love for my listeners to hear, in my opinion, they're both wonderful. But since you did the group, you can talk a little bit more about why it was so powerful for you. And yet I teach all the same tools. So I just want to hear a little bit more about your experience, but also like what I remember that I really want you to talk about that I remember very clearly is a phone call that I had with you before you had made the decision to do the group coaching.
Okay. Yep.
And my memory of that is that you had a lot of doubt about doing it, a lot of doubt and fear.
I did.
So I'd like you to talk about that because my guess is most people I mean, even making that email to me with, I'd like to talk to you, because I think we were talking about, I don't know, about money or something, but really it wasn't about money. Really, it was about your doubt and confusion. And that's really why you needed the phone call. But I want everybody to know that sometimes people think it's the money, but it's usually the doubt or the lack of confidence that gets in the way of making a decision. And you're a perfect example of going through this fear and lack of confidence in yourself to actually joining the program. So you want to talk about that a little bit to start out with?
Sure, yeah. It's interesting because I think it was more fear-driven because I had tried other programs in the past and they worked for a while, but then I gained the weight again, and it was more like on a bit of a seesaw with regards to my whole program. And so I thought to myself, I was fearful that that would happen again. And you're right. I mean, the money was a consideration, but it really wasn't about the money because I felt that it was an investment in myself. Like we invest in other things for personal benefit. And I thought to myself, this is the first time I'm going to step up and really invest in myself. And I had invested in other programs, which really didn't work for me. So that's really, I think, what was driving it, Dr. Deb.
I think so too.
So fear was one thing. And then it's the courage to make that call. And I had been listening to your podcast, and it was a friend of mine that had referred me on to your podcast. So I listened to your podcasts for a few months. And then I thought, bloody heck, just do it. Just go for it. Get the courage to make the call. And I did. I just found my inner strength. And I saw that you offered a mini session for 30 minutes. And I thought, I'm going to take full advantage of that and see how it goes. So, I mean, it could have gone either way, but I chose after the end of that session to continue on with you. And I'm so happy I did. I really am. I am delighted that I did because I honestly think that this is the last time that I will lose weight in my life. This is it. I think I've got it. Now that you're in my head, it's true. You're there. That this will be the last time that I will have to lose weight. I will get to my goal weight and I will maintain that. So I'm pretty pumped about that. When you see results, it makes it all that worthwhile. And when you mentioned about the group experience, I tussled a little bit with the group experience because I thought, should I go one-on-one? Should I go with the group? And then I thought to myself, other experience I've had were with group. And the thing I liked about group was that a lot of the same issues that women have with losing weight, when I listened to my other group members, I thought to myself, that's me. That's me. I'm hearing myself or the concerns that they had. So even though I may not have been being coached at the time, just listening to other people being coached gave me great solace because I thought to myself, number one, I'm not alone in this journey whatsoever. And a lot of the issues or problems that we face with regards to this are other people have too. So it almost raises your comfort level. It does. At first, it's funny because the first sessions we had, I was still a little nervous and I was and you asked, does anybody want to be coached or not want to be coached? Like you're just kind of shaking a little bit and thinking, no, exposure, I'm going to be exposed. Right. But then at the end of the session, it was like, pick me. Uh-huh. So there was a certain comfort that you provided to everybody within the group that sort of broke the ice and made me really want to be coached by you and also to listen to all of the other group members. It was a really great experience. For somebody that's sort of sitting on the fence, should they go group or private? I mean, that's a personal decision, but I would absolutely encourage if someone's thinking about it. And then it may evolve to one-on-one. But for starters, it was really, really helpful. Yeah.
And I just want to go back to the first call again with everything that you're saying is that I think you were really on the fence until maybe the last 5 or 10 minutes of our call, because I was coaching you because you had so much fear of trying again. And I think what I said to you is, well, what's going to happen for sure if you don't?
Well, it would be same as it ever was.
Exactly. And I think that just kind of, it's like, you know what? I heard you in that last 5 minutes of that call commit. I just heard 100% commitment is that I'm going to do this and I can do it with you.
Yes.
And I want everybody listening to this. And I know that people who were in the group who might be listening to this podcast with you or who were in the group with you from the first time that I coached you, and this is very, very important, is that your commitment to yourself, I knew after I coached you in the first group session, without a doubt, you were going to get what you wanted because I think you went all in on yourself. And I think when you decide to do that, to have the courage, is what you said, the courage to go all in on yourself, invest in yourself. And I believe from that minute on, you never looked back. That's the way I saw it.
And I think you're spot on. That's exactly how I felt because it was at that point when I said, yes, I'm going to do that. That determination and the tenacity that I had for the program has not dwindled whatsoever. And so, yes, you're absolutely right. I was on the edge. And then finally I said, that's it. I am going to invest in myself. And I also want a return on my investment. I'm retired now, but I was in business. And, you know, when you put something into something, you want to get something back. And it's so important when it's you that's getting or me that's getting the return. And I definitely got that. And I think I'll have that for the rest of my life. So yeah, you're right. It was daunting. You know, it's daunting because it's really something that you struggle with almost, in my opinion, it's like you struggle with all your life.
You struggled with it your whole life.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh geez. And then you think to yourself, the fear thoughts are, well, you know, how's this going to be any different? The old mind gets you thinking negative thoughts. How's this going to be any different? Oh, you know, why is this one going to work? That sort of thing. And you just have to eliminate those thoughts in your mind and just take that leap of faith and do it. Just do it for yourself. And when you get to that point, you never look back. You never look back. All the tools that you provided during our session, I used those to a T. I sent you on time all the food journals, all of the materials that you provide as part of that program. I was committed and I still use them. Even though our group session is over, I'm still using them very much so because it really helps to stay on track.
So for you, your commitment, I really believe that when somebody is 100% committed, which I believe from the minute I talked to you, you were, you are, you will be. I heard it in you. This is my last time. Anybody that's listening to this will believe you. You can hear it.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a way, and I believe that's what I teach is how to manage your mind so you can create that type of thinking and those type of emotions inside of you. And one of the things that I remember about you that I'd love to talk about is that I think it was like in our second group session, and you were telling me how committed you were and all of that, and it was really impressive. And then you said, and I just want you to know that I'm throwing my scale away. I mean, like, you know, as a point of pride. I'm not weighing myself anymore because that doesn't matter to me. And that turned in, if you remember, and I want everybody listening because I do a lot of podcasts on the scale.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say that was a theme for you throughout the whole group session is how you learned how to make peace with the scale and to use it. And would you want to say just a few things about that? Because everybody listening has something going on with the scale that's not helpful.
Absolutely. The scale for me, I think back, it's kind of funny.
I mean, it was I think it was the second group session.
I think you're right, because it was, as I said, when I look back at it, I laugh because I don't think that way anymore. But yeah, I always looked at the scale as being first of all, I was a bit obsessed with it. I'm a numbers girl. I like numbers. I like playing with numbers. I love looking at numbers. I like analyzing numbers.
Yep.
But that thing was more of an obsession that I would weigh myself every day, which I don't recommend. Not really.
I don't even think it matters. I don't think it really matters.
No, it doesn't. Doesn't now, but at the time, you know.
Yes, it mattered a lot.
It mattered a lot. So anyway, I remember that distinctly because I don't want to be obsessed with this anymore. I'm just going to throw it out. I'm going to put it in the garbage. And
that's what you said.
Exactly. And then after we spoke, okay.
After I coached you.
After you coached me. Yes. After you coached me, It was more of looking at the scale as a tool. It's a source of information. It's a source of accountability. It is what it is. And you can't, or I can't be obsessed with that, because I'm not using it as an obsession is not the intent at all. I need to think about this as a tool. So after our session, I went out, I got it back, and I actually put it in my dining room. So I have to look at it. It's there. And I don't mind looking. I'm looking at it right now. And I don't mind looking at it. I look at it now as what I said. It's a tool. There's accountability involved. And it also allows me to track my progress, right? And so I've changed my attitude with your coaching. I've changed my attitude towards it to look at it simply. It's a measurement, and it's a good measurement. And it's an immediate measurement. That's the other thing, is that if you're trying to, look at a belt buckle, how many rungs you're in on the belt buckle or sizes, that takes a little longer in order to be able to see results. Now, I have seen results in those other areas of measurement, of course, but the scale is pretty immediate. And in this world of immediate gratification, it's a very, very, as I said, I use it as a useful tool as opposed to a friend, as opposed to being a foe, because it was a foe before.
That's right.
Talking to you. Yeah.
I remember you talking about all the negative emotions that would come up for you getting on the scale.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's this way for a lot of people, is that they use it to determine how they're going to feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And so if it's up a couple of pounds, like you feel disappointed, and a lot of negativity can come in if it's up, a bit or a lot or whatever. It's just like, oh man, can I do this? And you get very negative thoughts when you think that way about the scale.
You used to get very negative thoughts that created very negative emotions.
That's
my guess is created very negative actions. And very negative results.
And the biggest negative action was to heck with it. Yeah, to heck with it. I'm done. And then that's obviously the action, which is very unhealthy, not good, not the direction that you want to go in. Yeah. So it was a little bit of a hamster wheel that I needed to get in control of. And as I say, with your help, I look at it completely differently now. If I'm up a little bit, okay, what did I learn? I think another thing you had mentioned, Dr. Deb, was becoming a bit of a detective about yourself. And I still hold that thought that if it's up or if it's down, it's like, okay, so what did I do this week? Or what does it look this week? How do my food journals look to review what's been done? And to me, that whole notion of being curious about the number, okay, as opposed to thinking, oh God, the sky's falling. No, it's just being curious about the number. That's what makes a huge difference in what drives my thoughts, in how I feel about it. And then as a result, there it is, sitting in the dining room, there it is. And I'm happy. I'm happy to get on it when I choose to. So it's a great measure. But that was a huge turning point for me, believe me, because I was daunted. And, I have to say too, funny, in other programs, no names mentioned, when you'd have to go in every week and weigh in, I would take off my jewelry.
Me too.
I take off my belt. I take off my watch. I mean, what's that weigh? An ounce, if that? So
that's how weird we were thinking about the scale. Believe me, sister, I was right there with you. Right. Yeah. I've been through all this too. So graduating to realizing the scale is just a tool and really monitoring your own mind around it, I think was a lot of the work that you did in this program.
Yes.
What else would you say? I think that was significant, what I saw. What else would you say was significant for you in terms of adjusting your mind? What tools do you think really helped you?
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm happy to. One of the tools, it's hard to pick because they're all good, but the one in particular is the urge worksheet, because these urges come on, and they come on when you least expect them. Or I should say the thoughts come in. And using that worksheet from an unmanaged thought to a managed thought really helped me put urges or the thoughts that were driving the urges, it really helped me put that into perspective. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing that I've really, really learned, and I attribute to your coaching, is all around recognizing it as opposed to acting on it.
Yeah.
So you recognize the urge to have, let's say, in my case, it was always to have something sweet.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that. We can
one?
talk about that in a minute. Yes, go ahead.
Remember that one? Okay. Yeah. It was like, okay. But it was that urge to have something sweet. And I just think back, it was like growing up, we always had something sweet after a meal as a family. And it was just a bad habit. Even though you were completely satisfied with your meal, and maybe even more so, you still look for that, or I still look for that something sweet. And so that really, really helped me put it into perspective. Number one, recognize, to say, okay, yes, I'm having an urge. And so I'd write it down, what I was thinking at the time, unmanaged. And then the managed thought allowed me to overcome the urge and put it into its proper perspective when I started to make the connection between my mind, my brain, and my body. Because when you make that connection, you realize, I don't want something sweet. I'm completely satisfied. That's it. It's as simple as that. Move on, do something else. And what I found is over time, they've become less and less. When we did the no flour, no sugar, I'm still doing that. So when we did that no flour, no sugar experiment, the urges I found were quite strong the first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But then they started to dissipate over time as I used my urge worksheets. And now I still get urges, for sure. I still get urges, but I don't allow them to make me act the way I did prior to being on your program, which was you feel the urge, you just do it, not even thinking. It makes you think. And yeah, I refuse to do it now because I recognize what it is for what it is. And then when you really talk to yourself about that and see how you feel, you really realize that you don't need that.
So I want to just qualify this a little bit for people who may not know what you're talking about.
Okay.
But I think it's really important is that when we talk about an urge worksheet and we talk about urges, that an urge is really just emotional hunger.
Yeah.
And it's negative emotion, and it comes from a thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so what you're saying is that one of the thoughts that created strong negative emotion for you or strong urges was the thought that I want something sweet. That was what we call an unmanaged thought. It's like you just thought because it's there, you're thinking it must be true, as opposed to, no, it's just something I've been thinking for so long, it just comes up without me even knowing it's there, right?
Correct.
Automatic thinking.
Yeah.
And so you sent me an email, I think, about, well, what do we do about this wanting something sweet?
Yes.
You just thought it was a fact about life is that you like to eat something sweet at the end of a meal, as opposed to, no, it's just something that you were thinking that was creating the feeling to want to eat it.
Correct.
And once you recognize that I want something sweet is just a sentence in your head, it's just a thought, then you knew that you can manage it with a managed thought, which is what were some of the thoughts that you would use instead of I want something sweet?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I even say that to this day, when I do get an urge, that I say to myself, this is just a thought. So that's recognizing that it's an urge. This is just a thought. And then you do the brain-body connection, and then you come up with a better thought. I mean, I can give you a couple of examples of some of my work, some of the things that I've come up with, because I've got my binder, my Dr. Deb binder here, if you'd like.
Well, because I think a lot of people have the same unmanaged thought is that I want something sweet. So what are some of the thoughts, the managed thoughts that you now think instead when that urge comes up?
Well, the first one is that this is just a thought in my head. This is not a physical need. It is just a thought that's popping up in my mind. That's what I think. When I want something sweet, it's like, do I really want something sweet? Not really. It's just a thought. It's nothing else other than that. It's kind of like trying to break a bad habit, habitually having something sweet after a meal. That's how you finish the meal.
But in reality, all it really was a habitual thought that created an urge that was rewarded.
Oh, rewarded many times.
Many times, which became cyclical in your brain.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. And using the urge worksheet, I hope as people can hear, is that you learned how to break that cycle by thinking something different, but truly believing the new thought. And at the same time, and you can say something about this, you also learn how to feel these things without having to act on them. So it's kind of allowing it to kind of go through.
Well, that's true. And I think that what I feel when I get an urge to have something sweet, and I recognize
when you think
that
something that says, I want something sweet, and you
I want something
urge,
sweet, you know, when the urge arises, I recognize that all it is a thought. And what I find is that if you just sit with that, so you just sort of sit with that, and then eventually the urge goes away and you just feel empowered by just sitting with it and letting it dissipate and not acting on it, just to sit with it, to recognize that I'm having an urge. Okay, I'm having an urge. And then when you don't act on it, it's really a feeling of empowerment you get that I can do this. That was just a thought. I have thousands of thoughts in my head every day. Do I act on all my thoughts? No. But when you do resist or just sit with that thought and then you don't do anything or you don't act on it, it's like, hey, I can do this. I can do this. Yeah. I'm not going to let my thought make me do something that I will regret later, that will give me the result, give me the action and the result that I do not want.
I'm telling you, you could do my podcast for me. You could teach, you are preaching my words. And it's so beautiful to see it come out of you. So I know that this is just the way you think now. I know that your brain is transformed. Not only is your body transformed, but your brain is transformed. And I hope everybody can hear that you were not like this in the beginning. You didn't talk like this. You didn't think like this. That you have done the work with the tools that I have taught you how to do that. And that commitment you had from day one is what got you here. Right? Because I'm sure some of it was difficult. I can't imagine it was just an easy ride.
No, it's not an easy ride. What you've said is the God's honest truth. And it's not an easy ride because you've been doing it or I've been doing it for so long. And so you really have to break that cycle of thinking. And when Dr. Deb is in your head, then it really helps to break that cycle of thinking. That was going on for years. And I think of the days of when I worked, I traveled a lot. And I was eating out in restaurants a lot and receptions and meetings. And there was just the best of everything. And you just sort of give into it. If I was working now, not a chance. I would recognize those urges within myself and just say, it's just a scone or just a poisson or whatever the hell it is. And just recognize it's nothing other than what it is. And I don't need it. I really don't. So your coaching was invaluable for me to be able to recognize that. It just seems such like an elementary thing, but until you actually start to work it and change the habit, changing your way of thinking, then it becomes real.
Obviously, it is real. We're hearing it coming out of your mouth, the reality of what you've learned. It's just amazing to me. And it makes me so happy that I get to do this work, to work with women like you who are so committed to themselves to do this and to be able to get what you're getting out of this. And what I would like you to talk about just a little bit is, you said that this is going to be the very last time that you ever have to do this again.
Yes.
What would you say to anybody else that's listening to this podcast that for sure is where you were, for sure has done this many, many times before and are a little afraid? What would you say to them after your experience?
I would say that this experience working with you changed my mindset. It really changed my mindset. And it made me recognize things that I had been doing for many, many years weren't serving me well. So that to me would be absolutely number one, mindset change. And the other thing that goes through my mind is, I think in our very first class or first and second class, we worked upon our compelling reason. And once you have that branded or imprinted in your mind, I go back to that compelling reason. And that also gives me the motivation and just to give me the reason why I did this right from the get-go. And it was, I want to be at peace with myself around food. And then you add it, no matter what. Okay. So I think of that often. That's a thought that goes in my mind, especially if I'm feeling a little bit of an urge coming on.
Exactly.
I think of that. And it really helps me stay the course on what I'm attempting to do. And as I said, I'm seeing the results, but so many times it's like, it's just really all about what's in your head. It's what your thoughts are and how your thoughts really drive some, as you say, sort of negative emotions that drive you to do things that you get results that you don't want. And once you recognize that, then you think, okay, I'm on a new path here because I feel like I am in control of my thoughts. Before, I don't think I was.
And what's interesting when you say that is most people want to come in because they say they're not in control of food, right? Like I can't control myself around food. But what you're saying, and I just want to clarify for everybody, is that when you can control your mind, which is what you have experienced,
yes,
what you put in your mouth changes.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Because that's one thing is we have the power to choose. We have the power to choose. And when you have the right mindset about your choices and what your goals are and your aspirations are in life, when you have that power of choice with the right mindset, then you're able to accomplish your goals.
And I would say that you get to create what you want.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the freedom that we have to do. You can either choose to do what's right for your body or you choose not to. I mean, to me, it takes a while until you get to that thought process that you do.
Yeah, you do.
That I do. I have that freedom of choice.
Yeah.
And when you make the right choice for yourself, it feels so much better. It just does. It's motivating to continue to make that choice. Another thing I think about too is I love to bake. I'm a baker. I'm a cooker. Anybody come over to Marie's place for dinner. Yes. Nobody's ever said no. I love to cook. And I used to laugh about, I call them BLTs, bites, licks, and tastes. So you're having a little taste of this, a little taste of that as things were going on. And then I finally get to the meal. I really wasn't hungry. It's like, what the hell? What's with the BLTs?
BLTs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's like, no, I don't do that anymore. I know that what I'm doing when I'm cooking or whatever, I know it's going to be good. I don't need to taste things all along. I really don't.
I love the BLTs. And what I love even more, because I think I talk to a lot of people that say, well, listen, I love to bake and I love to cook. And that's the reason why I have a weight problem, because I love to eat and I love to cook. And I want you to say, because you love to do all that. And yet, how much weight have you lost?
Over 20 pounds now.
Okay. Over 20 pounds. And are you still cooking and baking and having people over? And okay.
I sure am.
So you can still do all of that and eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full and choose fuel food and be mindful about joy eats. Yeah,
I can, because that's the other thing I've come out with from this program is that, okay, I'm not focusing so much on the food. I'm focusing on the friends and the family and the people and the social and the conversation and what's everybody been up to, as opposed to focusing entirely on the food. Sure, the food is, I've prepared it. It's okay. And it's good and people enjoy it. But that's not the main focus. And I think before it was for me, it was like, oh, everything has to be so perfect. And it's still good, but I have it in the right perspective now. And that makes a huge difference moving forward. I still have my passion for cooking and baking.
Exactly.
That's
what I want everybody to see. It's like,
that hasn't gone away.
Yeah. If you love to bake or you love to cook, you can bake and cook and eat accordingly. And I think maybe you brought it in the beginning is you thought, well, since I love to do all this, I have to eat it.
Yeah.
And I have to overeat it. The two go together.
Yeah.
And they don't.
Yeah. They don't.
They don't.
No, not at all. It's the same thing as actually if you go to a restaurant, it's the same concept where You don't really have to eat everything that's on that plate. And nowadays, everybody, if you can't eat it, then you can take it home if you want, or they can throw it out, whatever. But it's more focusing on the people and the social and the camaraderie. And that's what it's all about. The food is just the stage, but you really want to be with the actors.
I love all your concepts. And once again, before we end, I want you to just say one more time what your compelling reason is. And I just want everybody to hear it. And I just want to connect it up a little bit. So what's your compelling reason?
My compelling reason is I want to be at peace with myself around food, no matter what.
Well, it sounds to me you have accomplished that.
I believe I have.
If people are listening to this podcast and they're listening to you, you can see from what you're saying that you have those actions and results based on that thought.
Correct.
And the reason we come up with a compelling reason is because most people think their compelling reason is to fit in smaller clothes or just to lose a certain amount of weight. Like that should be compelling. And what I want you to know is I know you want to lose weight and you are losing weight, but what's compelling you is this thought about wanting to have peace around food. And that's what's compelling you, I think, and you can tell me where I'm wrong, to use the tools that I taught you, to use them in a way that gives you that.
Well, there's no question. The tools support the compelling reason. Mm-hmm. And my recommendation to anybody listening to this is that you really need to work on your compelling reason to really make it make sense for you and something that you can go back to. It's almost like it's another tool that you can use to stay the course. Because, you don't want it too wordy or what the heck, a paragraph. No, it's got to be crisp, concise, to the point, and then it becomes a tool. I use it all the time, especially when urges happen.
Yep. Listen up, everybody. Listen up. Listen up to Rosemarie telling you like it is. Yeah. So is there anything else that you want to add before we end our podcast today? Because I could talk to you all day long, but is there anything else that you want to add or anything else that you would like to say to our listeners out there?
Sure. I think that when we had our last class, one of the exercises was having a vision of yourself and what I envision myself doing. And I found that is something that I look forward to living, that vision of being a certain size and having one size in my closet. And you just have to really stick with it. I like the whole notion of you got to be all in. I was all in right from after our mini session. I was all in on this. And believe me, when you're all in on it, it's going to work for you.
Thank you so much for being on my podcast, Marie. It was wonderful.
You're more than welcome. It's great to see you again.
Yes.
Really, it is.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, what did I tell you? I know. She really was determined. She really used her determination, and she decided that this was going to be the last time, and she was going to do whatever it took, and she did it. You heard her say that. And the other thing that I want to say about her is she is funny, but she's also very determined and came up with some interesting topics and slogans. So if you heard her, she talked about the BLT, and BLTs stand for bites, licks, and taste. And that was something that she decided she was not going to do anymore. No BLTs, which I did a whole podcast on because I thought it was so brilliant. It's like eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full. And when you're full at a +2, no BLTs. You got to love it. She's an amazing woman. She's determined. And now she has something that she's always wanted. You heard her. She has confidence in herself. She loves the way she looks. And she trusts herself around food. So if this is something that you're looking for, maybe you want to get on the wait list for my next group that's opening up. Or maybe you just want to work with me individually, in which case you can just sign up for a mini session. You and I can talk and we can find out if we would be a good fit together, if I can help you get what Marie got. So all you have to do is go to drdebbutler.com/work with me. And that's how it all began. And of course, I would never end my podcast without saying to you, no matter where else you go, no matter what else you do, Please, please, please be very, very kind to yourself, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye. If you've been loving my podcast, please, please, please subscribe, and also please, please, please review if you're loving it. The way you heard about it is the way many people hear about it. They Google it or they look for it, and the only way that it pops up is by who reviews it. So if you're loving it, let's pass on the good word and the good news. Thank you.